Hello there, it's Ben here, and we're at the Hurt office today. I don't think we've ever done a video in here before. We may have done one next door, but I don't think we've ever done one from here. Anyway, this room's been completely redone anyway, so just thought I'd show you around where I'm editing at the moment. So as you've seen, I've been recording in somewhere really horrendous, like desolate, and there's no internet, nothing. It's just me, a laptop rig, and nice mics and preamps and everything, so it sounds great, but the actual scenario is dreadful. I mean, it really fits zombies, I guess. But this place is new, so right next door, literally right next door here, the next room is Chaz, and he does all of the sending stuff, and sometimes I do it too. Well, I haven't done it for months now, but you know, merge stuff, and we'll show another video of the room next door. You can show you how that works and meet him. And right now we're unpacking, was it 300 t-shirts? Willow tree t-shirts, really weird. But this room is relatively new, and I've only had this for a couple of months, so I've only just started using it properly. This is where I'm editing and recording. So I'm editing drums, guitars, bass, vocals in here, but then recording synths from here as well. And just thought I'd show you around my setup because I've had a few questions about various things. I thought I'd get them all done in one little video. So synth-wise, I have my Moog Voyager back. I'm just going to call it the Desolate Place. Back at the Desolate Place, at Moog Voyager and the Sub Fatty, which I love both of those. They're really great. But then we got this recently. This is the Sub 37 Moog. And is it plugged in? No, it's not plugged in. But this, I fell in love with this immediately. It's just like the Sub Fatty, but it has some really interesting kind of extra parameters. And I think the filter on here, this big knob here, super musical. Like, he's got that classic Moog filter, which I don't think the Sub Fatty had. Like, and of course, the new kind of more digital side, you can now save presets and stuff, which is obviously ridiculously handy. But this is paraphonic, this is not monophonic like the Sub Fatty, so you can play two notes. It's also called duophonic, but you can play two notes at the same time, which is rare for Moog. And then recently I just purchased this. This is the Prophet 12. I have the Prophet 6 and the Prophet Rev 2, which is kind of baby version of this. But this is the Prophet 12, and it's just insane. Like, the way I make synths is I start with a sine wave always. So I go to the initial template, and then in fact I've removed all of the internal presets because I don't like presets. I think, why use someone else's sound when you can just spend half an hour making your own that's perfect. But in this you can do really cool things where you can stack sounds here. You can literally stack sounds, and it's a really interesting way of building kind of layers of sound. And before we move on, this actually has its own internal delay and feedback section, which is really cool over here, but the Sub 37, Sub Fatty and Voyager don't. So for those, I actually use these two. This is a pedal I fell in love with when I was tracking, the fuck was it called? Quiet One. Sorry. And I fell in love with that pedal. I think it's just the most amazing reverb pedal. It's actually like 8 reverbs in one, or 7 reverbs in one kind of echoey delay thing, which is actually really cool. It's kind of like a reversey delay. But reverb wise, that's my favourite ever reverb pedal. I think it even beats the Holy Grail. And then the Strymon Timeline, and I have the Strymon Big Sky as well. It's not here right now, but this is basically like a Big Brother version of the Big Sky, but that's like a really nice reverb, lush reverb. So the Strymon Timeline here. In terms of speakers, I'm using the Event 6s, which are my which are actually a duplicate version of the ones I used in the old studio. They're my favourite speakers kind of all time. They're the ones that I fell in love with. Everyone was falling in love with MS10s, and I fell in love with the Event 6s instead. Really similar kind of ultra bright speaker, but they're just really handy to have to monitor on, so I've got shaky hands like a crackhead. Then over here we've got a my second or third version of the Kemper profiler. I have this one again somewhere actually in storage, but this one has all of the Z1 patches which I use obviously for Z Live coming up this year. They're all saved on here, so the real patches made by the Mode 4, my Mr. Boogie, Dual Rectifier and the Kraken are all saved on here so that I can play exactly as it sounds on the album straight from here. You'll notice in the live at the ends, 2 down, I had no pedals on the floor. Well, that's because this was doing everything for me. Callum switches it from a keyboard, and now I don't even need a keyboard. It's all doing it straight from the laptop. So we've got like a live laptop that I've set up to move exactly when the song changes. It changes patches for me, and this is actually a slightly different version of the Kemper profiler. This is a new one that's coming out next year, although it's subject to change. This is like a beta version where you can stack amps and have a different amp left and right, which you couldn't do in the original one. I think that's going to be available for the old version of the profiler as well, but via a kind of update to it. But I love the profiler. I think it's just ridiculous invention. But I've heard the new one that's coming out is going to have an ability to capture effects pedals, so I could capture this lot in that, which is fucking great. Really handy. I've got a piano here. It's covered up right now. There's a full-length 81 note piano there, fully weighted thing. Now I've got I can't remember what these are called. Don't know, but I've been using them recently for drum beats. There's a drum beat in Worlds Collide in the verses that has that on it. Can't remember what they're called. They've literally just run out of battery, which is irritating. Then there's this thing. I don't know what that's called either. But I just bought that 2 days ago just to be able to use these speakers in here basically. That's the UAD 2 something, the new version, whatever the old one was, I can't remember. And then the iMac. I don't know what version of iMac this is, let's have a look. Fuck off. Where are we? That's no. This is whatever that one is. Which is fine, you know, I mean, it's alright. The only issue I get is when I have a huge mix on here, like, what's a good example? Deadhead right now. No, not Deadhead, Hell Beasts right now. It's fucking massive. The strings on it alone is just huge. It's like 60 or 70 layers of strings, and this is kind of chugging along. But I think this is the most recent iMac. It's just it is the most recent iMac. I only bought it like a week ago, but it says late 2015. I don't know why I said. Maybe that's just when the last one came out. I don't know, but it's pretty good. 1983, is that when Apple started? Fuck me. How old was I then? 1983. I was 4. Right, there we go. These are the old hard drives I use, Lacey. I don't know, people wanted to know this, that's why I'm showing you this. I have whatever that hard drive is there, with whatever the little hard drive is on top. The top one's an SSD, actually they're both SSDs, a 2 terabyte SSD, and then whatever the other one is, 500 gigabyte SSD, I don't know. And then while I'm at it, I thought I'd do this quickly, they wanted to see what apps I had on my iPhone. Well, I don't really use an iPhone, although I'm holding one right now. I use the iPad way more. So that's what I have on my iPad. I have more, but they're the ones I use all the time. I'm constantly on Kickstarter and what's the other one called I use? Indiegogo. I love investing in various things, and they're really good. Obviously Vivo, that's not the work Vivo, that's just the consumer Vivo, check it. And that is about it. Is there anything else to show? I don't think there is. I think it's a pretty simple setup, to be fair, in here, and it's just something that is really useful right now, and I can't exist in the other place for too long because it starts fucking with my mind, and I start feeling like a homeless person. So Although I don't sleep in here, I could. I have a nice view over Sandown Park Racecourse, which is really nice. This is in Surrey. We're in Surrey right now, which is nice to look over Sandown Park. I always thought, what is this person doing here? That's really odd, really obscure. What is this? Like, but it's my favourite pieces of art ever, and I'll never understand it. I don't understand what it is. But there you go. Anyway, that was a quick look around the editing suite here. Cheers, guys. Bye.